SCP-000 was first discovered when a space in the file appeared on the system. When looking into the file, nothing is found but a blank page. Attempts to amend the file, including just typing the title or case number, the file will immediately become corrupt and send the editor eventually mad, after more attempts to amend it. This was the case, and the theory was that the file housed another entity of a multi-universal nature, or a pattern screamer. A being from another dimension or a space between dimensions. The pattern screamer was trying to communicate through the file, as it had been trapped in a place similar to purgatory. It was June 15, 2022. The file went blank once again, but something else strange happened. A doctor named Jack Halusa declared the file closed. But this is where it becomes very strange. Before the file was declared closed, all facility personnel have no memory of Dr. Halusa, although they cannot imagine a time when he was not there. There are no records of Dr. Halusa being at the site and no personnel files on him at all. No investigations have been performed on Dr. Halusa, as anyone who comes into contact with him denies that he was a new member or that he hadn't been at the site the entire time. Dr. Halusa is a tall 6 feet 1 inch thin man with shoulder-length hair, dark brown at the roots but fading into a reddish color at the tips, a dark gloomy expression on his face, and never smiles. He almost looks as though he is fed up, not amused, and slightly peeved at all times, although he in truth is well-mannered and easy to communicate with. He has a calm monotone voice, which many have described as sounding like Professor Snape from Harry Potter or Alan Rickman. The truth behind the matter is that Dr. Halusa is the pattern screamer from the SCP file 000. In physical form he manifested and took on the role of a SCP facility researcher, as that was the only thing he had seen in his struggle to transition to our dimensional plane. The second thing to note is that Dr. Halusa, SCP-000, has no memory of the transfer and believes himself to have been a researcher of Site-19 for about 20 years. The file SCP-000 or any other reports on Dr. Halusa are known as SCP-000-1 by those who have speculated the reason behind the mysterious doctor's sudden appearance and perceptual influence on facility personnel. Because of the nature of Dr. Halusa and what he is, or at least the theory of what he is, the site supervisor and the council have instructed him to remain on site as a residential researcher, little to his knowledge, because of his suspected anomalous properties. Dr. Halusa SCP-000 has been classified as safe as he shows no threat to personnel or other members of Site-19. He was also classed as sentient perception due to the cognitive perception that affects people that he comes in contact with. SCP-000-1 has been classified as Euclid and classed as cognito-hazard, as once a report has been started it cannot be left without the person writing it from going insane. The file has now been completely locked and all personnel are forbidden from writing reports on Dr. Halusa. He has been allowed to write up his own reports of which no effect occurs. Although Dr. Halusa has one of the highest clearance levels on the site, he is unable to or cannot accept the existence of a file called SCP-000, as no such file can be, so no attempts to try and locate the file would occur. Some of Dr. Halusa's notable anomalous properties include, when taking a picture of him results in a scrambled face on the page. Audio recordings can be made, but in the background of the audio you can hear a faint screaming whenever the doctor talks. And lastly, any report made on him becomes gibberish, errored, and corrupt, eventually sending the personnel entering the data to go mad. Because of these strange results, Dr. Halusa earned the name Dr. Madness, which to his dismay, he absolutely hates but accepts, although attempts to correct everyone. The other notable properties are that the more dangerous SCP subjects seem to regard the doctor with ease and do not view him as a threat, including the case of SCP-049 and SCP-106, where they treat him with more respect than with other researchers. He engages in conversation and can even extract useful information from subjects he has been allowed to talk to. Because of his usefulness and his immunity to all SCP subjects, he has been granted Level 6 clearance, which was a class that never existed, but no one questioned it, even though they knew there was no access level higher than 5. A few of his achievements was once subduing SCP-173 in one of the last attempts of breach, as well as convincing SCP-682 to return to his cell. SCP-096 allows only Dr. Halusa to view his face, although he is still very distressed by it. The doctor has a way of making the SCP he comes into contact with docile and compliant with his requests. Although the O5 Council know of Dr. Halusa's existence and the theory surrounding him, they mostly approve of all of his requests. Like the other researchers with anomalous properties, such as Dr. Bright and Dr. Clef, Dr. Halusa is monitored, but the site personnel and O5 Council see him as no threat at all. Because of his mind-altering properties, no one had any clue he wasn't a normal researcher, but knew something wasn't quite right, but very quickly dismissed it. And that is the explanation of SCP-000, the previous multiversal pattern screamer, Dr. Madness.